Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we're going to be on the 2025 CJ Cup Nelson. It is this week's PGA Tour stop just outside of Dallas, Texas. We are going to tell you everything you need to know about this tournament in 30 minutes or less. We're going to tell you all about the course. Then we're going to take a look at all of the key stats this week and then take a look at the golfers themselves and see if we can identify some good plays in DFS betting and one and done for this week. It was a very successful last week for us at the Zurich. It was a super volatile event, super unpredictable event. We were able to have a lot of DFS lineups with getting 5 guys through the cut, had a few 6-6s, and so it was able to be a profitable week. I was big time on Chad Ramey and Justin Lauer. I wish they would have been able to finish it off, but the Zurich was a solid week for us. So let's hope we can go back to back here this week at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Now, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the PGA Tour season, including the next 3 majors, the PGA Championship coming up, as well as the U.S. Open and the Open Championship, as well as all of our best ball content that's going to be coming your way this summer. We're going to be having a lot of different information episodes on NFL best ball and college football best ball, as well as some live drafts as well. So make sure you're subscribed so that we can be with us here for all of that. Now, one more thing, I'm here for this episode, but my wife is currently 38 weeks pregnant, and we are about to have our second child, a boy, and so he can come any day now. So if there is an episode that I miss for golf or anything like that coming up, just know that it's probably because I'm in the hospital and I'm probably going to be back in a week or two. Just making sure everybody's aware of that. That way, if we do miss the Wells Fargo next week, like nobody's surprised or anything, because that's going to be what happened. And I'm looking forward to baby boy being born, and really not looking forward to the sleepless nights, but it's going to be a great experience. Anyway, let's go ahead and break down TPC Craig Ranch. All right, so the CJ Cup Byron Nelson is being hosted at TPC Craig Ranch, which is a golf course just outside of Dallas, Texas, in McKinney, Texas, which is suburban Dallas, which, to be quite honest with you, suburban Dallas is quite a large area. Like the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex is just a sprawling metropolis that the suburbs extend far and wide now, right? Anyway, TPC Craig Ranch is not exactly the course that, if I'm being honest, I would have selected to host this event. It has pretty much hosted this event ever since the COVID shutdown. There was no Byron Nelson in 2020, and then TPC Craig Ranch has been the host course from 2021 through 2024. So we've seen 4 editions of the course at TPC Craig Ranch, and it is just not exactly a super unique, super intriguing, super interesting golf course. I'm just going to be honest. Like, this is not one of my favorite golf courses on tour. I do enjoy Texas golf. Like, I was born in Texas. I lived in Dallas for a little bit. I enjoy golf in the state of Texas. I think it's interesting in its own right, but compared to the other Texas courses, this one's just not that interesting. Very much for other course that was hosted, the Byron Nelson Trinity Forest. I thought that one was very interesting. It was a unique stop on the PGA Tour, but this one's just not really unique in any way. What it is it's a par 71 that is about 7,600 yards, designed by Tom Weiskopf, who also designed TPC Scottsdale. And there's just not a whole lot of intrigue in the architecture of this golf course. The fairways are very wide. The greens are quite large and quite flat and not even very fast. And so what you tend to see here is just a bunch of scoring. In the first 2 editions of this, the winning score was 25 under or better. And so what they did 2 years ago was decide to turn one of the par 5s into a par 4 and decide to play it as a par 71. That'll decrease scoring. And simply the winning scores went from 26 under to like 24 under, because you didn't really change the golf course or make it harder. You just changed a number on the scorecard. And so this year, what they're doing, they are apparently trying to make it more difficult. Well, we'll see how successful they are at that. And so what they're doing this year is they are growing out the rough, which was formerly not penal whatsoever. And this year they have lengthened it a little bit. There are over 100 more yards of distance in this edition of TPC Craig Ranch than there have been previously. So the PGA Tour and the architects or tournament managers here, they're trying to kind of artificially create a more difficult environment than it actually is. But the bottom line is this is a course that just is very, very easy. Even though it is long, it is easy, because with very minimal hazards off the tee, guys are going to be pulling driver and swinging as hard as they can to put the ball out there as far as they can, because there's just no hazard if you miss, right? Like, even missing the fairway, the rough is not that big a hazard. There's not a lot of water. There's not really a whole lot of trees that are making this course like really all that tight. You're just out there into a field on some of these holes. And so really there's just no difficulty whatsoever off the tee. It's just kind of a driver go boom course, as I would like to call it. And then for the approach play, like, the greens themselves are large and not that vast. So there's just a lot of very hit greens. And with there not being a whole lot of undulation, even if you miss the green, it's very easy to get up and down. You see a lot of chip-ins here. You see a lot of made long putts here just because there's not a whole lot going on in the greens. And if you start your ball on the right line, you can be pretty certain that it's going to roll on its right line into the hole. There's just not a whole lot of difficulty here. Game here at the TPC Craig Ranch is going to be scoring. You're going to have to score birdies on birdies on birdies if you want to win this golf tournament. Like I said, it is a par 71, so there are only 3 par 5s. So, they took away one of the holes for scoring. And then the par 3s are quite difficult as well. But that's really like the only aspect of this course that's difficult at all. Like, even if you want to say like, hey, like there's a creek running through the course, like, doesn't the water make it play more difficult? Not really, because the water doesn't really add a whole lot of strategic choices, because it's very obvious where your tee shot is very clearly carrying the water or very clearly isn't, especially on par 3s. And then, well, on par 3s, it would be clearing it, by the way. And then really, like, even if you're approaching a par 4, like it's usually like right in front of the green. Like there's no real strategic decisions. Like you're either going to have to very clearly lay up or very clearly drive past it. Like there's not really a whole lot of strategy going on. So the name of the game this week is going to be hitting greens, making birdies. If you can do that, you're going to have yourself a lot of success. So let's go ahead and take a look at our key stats this week. So the key way that golfers are going to be able to separate themselves this week, in my opinion, is with their approach play. What you're going to see a lot this week is going to be a lot of long irons into greens. So a lot of stats that I'm looking at are going to be basing it off of long iron play, because that's a way that you can separate. So I've got strokes gained approach, opportunities gained, proximity 200 plus as big time approach stats. And then kind of as approach and putting stats, we've got overall birdie or better percentage, and then strokes gained putting on bent grass. You are going to have to make putts this week. This is not a golf tournament that you're going to be able to win losing 5 strokes putting, because you're just going to have to make birdies. And what's going to happen to some poor souls, unfortunately, on Thursday and Friday is they're going to hit the ball well and miss some putts, and they're going to miss the cut because of it. And that's just going to happen to some people, right? If you're using strokes putting this week, that's going to be very costly, because it's a little bit harder to separate here in the other 3 categories than it usually is. I'm not even considering around the green as a part of a key stat this week, because there's going to be so few greens in regulation missed and so few difficult spots that you can get in if you miss the green, that just if you miss the green, it's a very high likelihood that you're going to par. So it's not really a way you can separate yourself with your around the green play, because bogey is not in play on most of these holes. So now my comp courses this week are Vedanta Vallarta, Memorial Park, Detroit Golf Club, TPC Scottsdale, Torrey Pines, and Country Club of Jackson. All of these courses, little on the longer side, except for maybe Scottsdale. Very long iron intensive golf courses on approach, very driver intensive golf courses off the tee. Very easy golf courses, right? Like these are courses where you're going to have to make birdies. The only exception I would say is Torrey Pines is not very easy, but Torrey Pines is one of the best driver long iron tests on the PGA Tour. And so if you have those 2 skills, you're going to play well there at Torrey Pines, and you're going to play well here. And there's been a little bit of correlation here. You've seen guys like Steven Yeager and Taylor Pendrith play very well at Torrey Pines and then play well here at this golf course. All right, so let's go. That's our key stats for the week. Let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to dive into our custom model. All right, y'all. So we're about to dive down the rabbit hole. And when I say the rabbit hole, I'm not referring to an actual rabbit hole. I'm referring to the rabbit hole, which is a tool from BetSperts Golf that allows you to use all different kinds of filters and conditions in order to really look at specific statistics and really weed out the micro skills that you want to isolate for certain golfers and certain golf courses every week. And it's brought me a lot of success. It's brought me, kind of brought my attention to some guys that I might not have gotten to otherwise if I didn't have the specific stats and conditions that I was able to find on the rabbit hole. And it even allows you to make a custom model. And that's what we're going to do here this week. So here's what went into my custom model. First thing I wanted to look at was off the tee play, strokes gained off the tee on driver heavy golf courses, right? So the best guys in the field at that. Jordan Spieth, kind of surprising there. Alejandro Tosti, Taylor Pendrith, Jesper Svensson, and Alex Smalley, with Scotty Scheffler coming in 6th. I then wanted to look at strokes gained approach recently. So last 30 rounds, who are the best players in the field in the approach categories. We've got Henrik Norlander, Sammy Valimaki, Scotty Scheffler, Will Zalatoris, and Steven Yeager as your top 5. I then wanted to look at strokes gained approach on long golf courses, because really when you look at a lot of the longer golf courses on the PGA Tour, a lot of the longer golf courses are going to require long irons in the greens. So this was kind of a way of getting long iron play factored in. Best in the field, Henrik Norlander, Gary Woodland, Scotty Scheffler, Doug Gim, and Andrew Putnam. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained putting on bent grass greens only, which is going to be important to score this week. So the best bent grass putters in the field: Harry Hall, Mackenzie Hughes, Taylor Montgomery, Matty Schmid, and Vince Whaley. Then I wanted to get another long iron stat in there. So I looked at just approach from 200 yards plus. And so the best in the field at that, we got Joseph Bramlett, Zach Blair, Kurt Kitayama, Austin Eckroat, Nick Hardy, and Scotty Scheffler. Little three-way tie for fourth there. So that's why we had more names. Then also one thing I wanted to look at was easy courses only overall proximity. So this is basically a way of measuring who is pin hunting, right? So when guys have the green light to attack pins and put the ball close to the hole, who is actually attacking it and who is actually putting it close? We've got Will Chandler, Jackson Sewer, Thomas Rosenmuller, Trace Crow, and Brian Campbell as your top 5. Then I wanted to look at strokes gained total on easy golf courses because this one is very easy. Best in the field, we've got Ben Griffin, Sung J M, Austin Eckroat, Eric Cole, and Sam Burns. When we flip on over to long golf courses, we have at the top of the board Scotty Scheffler, Chan Kim, Taylor Pendrith, Sung J M, and Hayden Springer. And then when we load up all those comp courses into the database, all the ones that we mentioned on the slide earlier, the best guys in the field at those comp courses, we've got Scotty Scheffler, Sam Burns, Sung J M, Jake Knapp, and Taylor Moore as your top 5. Now, when you throw all that into a custom model, what do you get? It's no surprise. Like you guys saw where this was going, right? Number 1 golfer in the field for me is Scotty Scheffler. And we're going to give Scotty a big time breakdown here in just a second. But second in the field, number 2 in my model, interestingly, is Taylor Pendrith. Why is that interesting? Because he is the defending champ here at this event. So Taylor Pendrith, very clear affinity for this golf course, good performances at a lot of my other comp courses. And when you look at what he's been doing lately, I actually think pretty encouraging profile. So like obviously he wasn't great at the Masters or at the RBC Heritage, but what's encouraging is he's starting to putt the ball well. And this is a guy in Taylor Pendrith who has never been a good putter of the golf ball. He's gained strokes putting in 3 of his last 4 events. The approach play has been a little hit or miss, and when it hits, you end up with some really good finishes, like his T7 at the Farmers, which was one of my comp courses. So I really do think this is a good spot for him. And if the putter shows up, this is an event where Taylor Pendrith very easily could win. Again, obviously, you know, he has comfortability with this course. He has familiarity with this course, and his archetype fits this pretty well. I thought Taylor Pendrith is a great golfer to pick in any format this week. My third golfer in my model, kind of surprising to me, is Doug Yim. So Doug Yim pops up on a lot of my models often because of approach play, right? Now, Doug Yim, absolutely terrible putter of the golf ball. But what do we see in his profile? He's at his best at easy golf courses. He's at his best in weak fields, of which this is one. He's at his best at long golf courses. Okay, that's kind of what we're looking for, right? That's a pretty solid profile. And the approach play continues to be there for Doug Yim. The rest of his game is a little bit hit or miss, but the approach play has continued to be there. He was T18 Bolero Texas Open in his last start, in which he gained strokes with every category except the putter. That's a positive sign, in my opinion. And so I really do think that this is not a bad spot for Doug Yim. I think there's a lot of very predictable plays in the 7K range in DraftKings. I think there's a lot of other guys with his similar numbers on the betting board. And I think that he's a very sneaky play. He's a guy that not a whole lot of people are talking about. Ben Griffin came in 4th, guy that's coming off of his first ever PGA Tour win, if you can call it that, at the partner event at the Zurich Classic. Sorry, but I'm not interested in going to a guy right after his first win and the emotion that brings. And yeah, just not really feeling it. 5th in my model, Siwoo Kim, a guy who's had good history here, even though it doesn't really feel like he should have good history here. Like, we want to play Siwoo Kim at like short positional golf courses like Sedgefield and TBC Sawgrass in the American Express. But Siwoo Kim here at this event played each of the last 2 years, T2 and T13. So maybe there is something with Siwoo here in this event. Kevin Yu is 6th, and that one is another one. I'm going to attribute it to kind of like Doug Yim. Like, when you weight in approach play in a model quite heavily, a guy like Kevin Yu is going to show up. Unfortunately, he did play. He missed the cut last year, but I do think that this is a better edition of Kevin Yu than we've seen in the past. The bottom half of the top 10 of my model, we've got Hayden Springer, Jonathan Vegas, Nikolai Højgaard, and Sung J M. So Hayden Springer is a guy that has made us some money this year, especially like in the alternate field events. Basically, Hayden Springer is a guy that whenever you see a long golf course, you just play him. He's 5th in the field in strokes gained total with long golf courses. And so I'm going to continue playing him this week. And I hope that other people in DraftKings will not. I think he's a very solid top 20 bet as well. Jonathan Vegas, 8th, another guy kind of in the Yim and U camp where he's going to show up on my mind because of approach play. But it has not been a good 2025 for Jonathan Vegas. Nikolai Højgaard 9, his brother's been out playing him, but you look long term, Nikolai Højgaard's been the better Højgaard brother long term. And he's had success at the comp courses. Both the Højgaards played very well last week. I kind of understand playing both Højgaards, and I kind of think that whenever I make a model, I'm kind of putting both of them in about the same spot. Sungjae M came in 10th. He's another guy that's near the top of the board this week. I'm going to go back to Sungjae. So I'm normally not a big Sungjae guy, but when you look at what he's done recently, it's kind of hard not to. Like when you look at what he did at the Heritage, he was great in every category except for approach and putting, which is kind of a bad sign considering what we're looking at this week. But Sungjae M is like a historically atrocious putter. And when he does gain putting, you do get really good performances. Actually, I don't know. The more I look at this profile, yeah, I take that back. I think I'm going to be fading Sungjae. You look at what he's done recently, T5 and T11 in his last 2 starts. The putter and the chipping was a big reason why he was successful at the Masters. Chipping was a big reason why he was successful at the Heritage. He's losing strokes gained approach consistently week in and week out, and he's done it in 5 straight events. That's not a good sign because Sungjae M is normally an elite approach player. In fact, if you want to extend that, he's lost strokes on approach in 8 out of 9. That's not a good sign, y'all. So while he does have some success at some of the comp courses, while he does fit like the profile pretty well, I don't know. I'm a little concerned with that profile because the 2 most important stats this week, approach and putting, are the 2 that he is not doing the best job at right now. So maybe I am a little bit concerned on Sungjae M. Now, that is the top 10 of my model for now. This is something that I tinker with all week, though. So I do a big Wednesday article, which can be found on my Patreon, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks, where if you would like the full article with the full top 10 from the model, along with my DFS core plays on FanDuel and DraftKings, as well as a write-up why, you can find that on the Patreon every single Wednesday, patreon.com/MikesMoneyPicks. If you're looking for more information from me otherwise, you can always find me on Twitter at MikesMoneyPicks. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show. And then also you can find me in the Fantasy Corner Discord. Link is in the description. The Fantasy Corner Discord is a free community, a bunch of really smart, really good people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. It definitely has a DFS tilt, but if you play golf DFS or any other sport DFS for that matter, it's a great spot to be. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we're going to take a look at the board and talk about some strategy for DFS and betting. All right, so I will say the betting board in terms of odds for winning the tournament, as well as the DFS board in terms of salaries, are indicative of one very clear thing this week. In this field, there's Scotty Scheffler, there's a big gap, and then there's everybody else, right? Really, when you're looking at Scotty in general, you could make the argument that right now on the PGA Tour, there's Scotty and Rory, and then there's a big gap, and then there's everybody else. But like really, in this field, there's not even any of those tier 2 players. There's no Morikawa, there's no Ludwig, there's no Cantlay, there's no JT, right? There's just a big tier missing of players, and that's indicated on the odds boards and on the DFS salaries, right? There's a big gap between Scotty and everybody else. So the question becomes, should you bet Scotty this week? Should you play Scotty in DFS? Well, here's the thing. I don't bet golfers at 2.5 to 1 to win golf tournaments. So I'm not going to be betting Scotty Scheffler outright to win. Now, if you want to do something creative like parlay Scotty with like the Knicks to win game 5 or something like that, go for it. But that's just not something that I really get down with, right? Now, if you want to explore the betting without Scotty Scheffler markets, I think if you can find a comparable number, then do so. You know, the odds of Scotty being about 2.5 to 1 to win this tournament indicate that there's about a 30% chance that he's going to win this golf tournament. And so if you can find odds reduced at less than 30% in the without Scotty market, then that seems to be a pretty good mindset to go with for me. I also think it's a great week to do each way bets, where if you want to bet a long shot and you're worried that Scotty might nuke him, then do an each way bet. Now, in terms of DFS, right? So here's the thing with Scotty. So Scotty significantly inhibits your lineup making ability because of how much more he is priced up than every other golfer. But when you think about the way that DFS works, everybody's going to be playing one of the top 5 guys in their lineup. So if Scotty wins out of those top 5 guys, you're looking at a worthwhile tournament to be playing Scotty Scheffler in DFS. And that's exactly what's happened most of the year this year. Is like Scotty has been beaten by like one guy that's priced similarly to him. And so if you didn't find that guy, but you just played Scotty, you didn't lose money in DFS because of Scotty Scheffler. You probably didn't win money in DFS because of Scotty Scheffler, but you probably didn't lose money because of him, right? Like when you think about the RBC Heritage, if you played Ludwig, if you played Cowan, if you played Xander, you lost big time to Scotty Scheffler, right? If you played JT, you beat Scotty Scheffler. So if you didn't find JT, then at the RBC Heritage, you would have been better off to play Scotty Scheffler. Now, there's been a lot of tournaments this year where Rory has been there, and at the Masters, Rory beat Scotty. At the Players, Rory beat Scotty. At the Genesis, Ludwig beat Scotty. At the Arnold Palmer, Morikawa beat Scotty, right? But so you're looking at instances where like one other guy near the top of the board is beating him. At the Texas Children's Houston Open, you ended up with a scenario that I think is very likely what we're going to see this week, where Scotty was T2. He was by far the best play at the top of the board, but Minwoo Lee won, and you could have built a Scotty Minwoo lineup, right? So I actually think it makes a lot of sense to still play Scotty this week. The one thing I will say, though, is he's going to be like super highly owned. So if you're going to play Scotty in DFS, you need to come up with a way that's different. You need to come up with a way that is going to be unique, because I think that it's very likely that we see another week like the Houston Open, where he comes in like T2 or T3, but doesn't win the tournament outright. And so you're probably going to want to be able to find that outright winner. Now, why are you questioning? You're probably I just said Scotty's the best player in the field. Why do I think he's not going to win the tournament outright? Well, the fact matters, it's really hard to win a golf tournament. And this is a course that does not allow Scotty to separate in the way that a lot of the other golf courses do. Scotty Scheffler separates because of his accuracy and distance combination with it, as well as his elite approach play. That approach play will be in action here, but also Scotty's a guy that never makes bogeys. Nobody in this field is going to be making bogeys this week. So this is really not a course where Scotty's going to be able to separate as well as he usually does, but I do think that it's quite likely he's going to end up in the top 5 or top 10 of this tournament, even if he does not win. So at the end of the day, how you play Scotty Scheffler in DFS is up to you. I'm probably going to be playing him in about half of my lineups, and I expect that to be slightly more than the field. But like I said, when I play him, I'm going to try to be unique with my construction after that. Now, the next little range, one thing that I find is an interesting exercise is trying to like tier off the golfers, right? And so just trying to go through names and figure out where there's a teardrop and kind of making a rule in my mind like, hey, I want to get 2 guys above this, or I want to get 3 guys above this line or something like that, right? So when you look at this field, you've got Jordan Spieth, who's driving the ball better than he ever has played well at this event, was runner-up here in 2022, was Team 9 here in 2021, and is putting the ball really well right now. Jordan Spieth's a solid play. Sung Ji In, we've already talked about. Sam Burns, driver putter guy, putting the ball well, was runner-up here in 2021. I kind of get it. Benny On, great at easy golf courses. History here, T4 and T14. I kind of get it. Taylor Pendrith, we've already talked about him, the defending champ. Siwoo Kim, we've already talked about him, runner-up here in 2023. Then Steven Yeager, 9,300. T20 and T11 here in the last 2 years. Winner at a lot of the comp courses, great finishes a lot of the comp courses. All of those guys feel really good to me. And then there's a big teardrop to Ben Griffin and Mackenzie Hughes. Shorter off the tee, have to scramble. Not really great history here. A T13 and a miscut for Griffin, a T14 and a miscut for Mackenzie Hughes. So I think that's your little teardrop or if you want to not play Scotty Scheffler this week, I think you want to get at least 2, if not 3 guys, Steven Yeager or higher. I feel the same way about the 8K range, right? When you dive into the 8K range, we got the Højgaard twins, 8,900 and 8,200. We've got the supremely talented Will Zalatoris and Tom Kim show up to play this event as often as they can, it seems like. Not really great finishes here, but like you're telling me that 2 guys with their profiles, like, is it one of the better golfers in this field? I actually really like Tom Kim this week. I think not a lot of people are going to be talking about Tom Kim because of his recent form, which has been quite bad. But Tom Kim has always been a really good putter on bent grass. He always has the ability to spike on approach or with the putter. And if he just happens to do it in the same week, which he has not done at any point this year, then he's a guy that can win a golf tournament. And if he does that, look out. Like Tom Kim can go nuclear. So he's a guy that I'm absolutely going to be playing in DFS because if he goes nuclear, you're going to want him in your lineup. After that, you've got Ryan Gerard and Jacob Bridgman, 2 guys who are really good ball strikers who've been playing really good recently. 8,600, 8,500. I love Jake Knapp at 8,400. He's a guy that is really good at these driver go boom courses. He was 8th here last year. He's been great at all the comp courses. He won at Mexico, was great last week in New Orleans. Love Jake Knapp at 8,400. Ryo Hisatsune playing some of the best golf of his career. T13 here last year. Great approach player. Love Ryo Hisatsune. Nikolai Højgaard 8,200. And then you got the teardrop. Eric Cole, Harry Hall, Seamus Power. Shorter off the tee. not great at long golf courses, mixed bag of recent form. I will say Seamus Power, though, T19, T17, T9, and a missed cut at this golf course. He's played here every single year he can. He's only missed the cut once. It's not bad. It's not bad for Seamus Power, but you guys get my overall point, right? Like when you're looking at this 8K range from Højgaard to Højgaard, honestly, you've got like this group of guys that either has a very intriguing ceiling or, they fit the course well or they're playing good golf. And then you get down to Eric Cole and you just don't really feel the same way about them, right? So I definitely think that I'm going to want to be tiering my lineup off that way. I want to get guys above Nicolai Højgaard. Like if I'm building a Scotty lineup, I want my second guy in to be above Nicolai Højgaard, as far up as I feel comfortable with going. Now, going down the board from there, looking at the 7K range and beyond, Alex Smalley is interesting to me. He was T13 here last year in his first appearance at this golf course. Smalley is a guy that he does have a pretty good track record at a lot of my comp courses, but it's just hard to have faith in Alex Smalley to win a birdie fest. And he's coming off of a string where he had 3 missed cuts and barely made the cut at the Corrales. Like he's not coming in a good run of golf. Like if this tournament was in March where he was coming off of his 4 straight top 25 finishes, I'd feel a whole lot better about him. Right now, it's hard to feel all that good about him, but he does fit the bill for what we're looking for, right? After that, in terms of course history, Austin Eckroat has a T2 here. Sam Stevens is a guy that we always love at long golf courses. Let's see what Sam Stevens' overall profile looks like, because I think this is a guy that not a whole lot of people are talking about that I think we might could get to this week. He was actually born in Texas. That's interesting. He can play well at very easy golf courses. He can play well at very long golf courses. Okay. Recently was bad at the Heritage, was bad at the Texas Open. Houston Open, not bad, T18. He's now lost strokes on approach in 5 straight, though. That's not great. That's not what we're really looking for. But he's another guy, kind of like Hayden Springer that I mentioned earlier, where whenever we're seeing a long golf course on the PGA Tour, I'm always interested in Sam Stevens. So he might be worth a look. It's not the best profile we're looking at, though. Now, 2 guys that I do want to talk about, very similar profiles, are Matt McCarty and Taylor Moore. These are guys that they gain a lot of their strokes off the tee and with the putter. Given the profile of this golf course, that they can just whale away with driver and that they're going to be needed to make putts, I think both of them make a lot of sense, even though neither of them have any real meaningful history here. Moore played here 3 years ago and was T32. I think that Taylor Moore and Matt McCarty kind of fit the archetype of what we're looking for. I think Isaiah Salinda is going to be very popular in DFS this week. He's coming in on a good run of form. He's never played this golf tournament, but he is a guy that it will drive the crap out of the golf ball. And when his approach play spikes, you get really good performances from him. Like if you look at his specific profile, his irons were on at the Houston Open and was T11. When his irons are off, it can be bad. But when his irons are on, he can finish 3rd like he did in Mexico. Like there's just a recurring pattern of when his irons are on, he finishes well because usually the rest of his game is pretty intact. So I think that Salinda is worth a look at 7,500. I really like Chan Kim at 7,400. Nobody's really talking about him, but this is a guy that plays long golf courses well, and he's coming in with really good form. He was T7 at Corrales, T5 at Valero, T39 at the Houston Open, all of which, like, really good profile, gaining on approach consistently, gaining around the green consistently. The putter and the off the tee play can be a little hit or miss, but like this is the profile that we're looking for. And when you look at the comp courses that you see in here, T17 at Mexico, T42 at the Farmers, like he can play well at these long golf courses. Really do like Chan Kim at 7,400 this week. After that, only a few more. Sammy Valimaki is going to be chalk this week, y'all. Playing great, especially on approach. Like he's just been so good coming in, which is why he's going to be popular. So just know that if you're playing him in DFS, you need to find a way to get a little bit different. Davis Riley has me a little bit intrigued because he's coming in, played really well in the team event. I didn't watch a whole lot of the Zurich Classic, but from what I did see, he kind of carried Nick Hardy on his back. And when you look at the recent form, it's a whole lot of green, especially in the approach category. I don't mind Davis Riley as a play. I don't traditionally think of him as like a long course kind of guy, but I think you could get there with Davis Riley. After that, Not a whole lot of guys I'm intrigued by. Cam Davis, 7,100 is like the king of the Rocket Mortgage Classic. He loves these kind of driver heavy, easy golf course events. I could see him being really good at 7,100. Like you're looking at a guys down here that not a lot have won on the PGA Tour. Cam Davis has. I kind of like the idea of getting him at 7,100 in this event. And y'all, the $6,000 range is quite ugly on DraftKings this week. I'm not going to be getting to it a whole lot. A few guys that I'll talk about. Molinak's good at I tend to play him a lot because of his approach play, but he never really seems to get there. I kind of like Adam Svensson too. Play well at the team event with Cam Davis, playing some better golf coming in. I don't mind it, but really this is just an ugly, ugly range. I think your chalk 6K guy in DraftKings this week is going to be Aldrich Potgieter. He's another one of these guys that plays well at these long driver heavy golf courses, played really well at Torrey Pines, played really well at Mexico. No history here. Coming in off a miscut at Corrales. I think he's going to be pretty popular this week. Joseph Bramlett is another guy that plays long golf courses quite well. I'm going to be considering Joey Bramlett this week. He's going to make my player pool. He has a T7 and T19 here at this golf course, even though he did miss the cut here last year. Chandler Phillips is like a skill set specialist on long approach. I kind of like him for that reason. Even though there's a mixed bag of form coming in, I just kind of like a guy that I know is really good with his long irons. Other than that, Luke List is a bomber, good with his long irons. He has a win at one of my comp courses at Country Club at Jackson. I like that one. And then the other guy I will mention, Jackson Super's approach play is great. That's like his calling card. And the last one is Sung Kang. He's down here at $6,100. He's been really bad recently, but he's a member at this course. And he's played here every time it's been hosted here. T47, miscut, T14, T41. If you're like a course history truther, Sung Kang would be your guy. Member of the course, plays well here. All right, let's go ahead real quick and talk one and done before we wrap it up. So it's not been a great season for me in one and done. At RBC, obviously we took a week off with the Zurich. A lot of one and dones do. The RBC, I had Sahith and Xander, and neither of the two of those really worked out at all. So now I'm left here at the Byron Nelson. And the intriguing part here, my preliminary pick was Byung-Hoon An, and I still feel pretty good about that. The interesting thing is here, like there's only like two guys, maybe three guys here that you would even want to save going further down the road. Like you're definitely not going to want to use Scotty here. Spieth, there's a few courses I could see using him at down the road. Like if you got Spieth at Colonial, you could use Spieth at Memorial. You could use him at like the Open. I think Spieth here would make a lot of sense if you have him. I used him in this particular one and done at the Valero. Sung Jae, there's going to be some Birdie Fest event in the middle of the summer that he's going to be the favorite at. I don't really feel like this is the best opportunity to use Sung Jae. So I really do like my preliminary selection. Byung-Hoon An or Taylor Pendrith. Like I think those are the two guys that are going to be the very clear options in one and done this week, that the clear favorite picks, popular picks in one and done. If you're looking to get a little bit different, I think Sam Burns is a solid look. You may want him at Colonial, though. He does have a win at Colonial. I think Steven Yeager is a great look as well in a one-and-done setting. You're not going to want him again. And then I do think Jake Knapp is a great look in a one-and-done setting. I don't think you're going to want to use him again. So the one that I've been picking here on the show, I think I'm going to stick with my preliminary selection. I think I'm going to go with Byung-Hoon An. I think he's really going to be the guy that I really like this week. All right, so that's going to do it here for this week, the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. We went over the course itself and all the relevant data and gave you all the guys that we think are going to be good looks this week. And so hopefully we were able to help you guys get some right information and able to pick some winners here this week. If this video helps you out in any way, please hit the like button. If you're listening on audio, please rate and review. Y'all, I promise that really does help me in a ton when you guys do that. I cannot stress that enough. And I really, really do appreciate it. Now, like I said earlier, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That we can be with us through the rest of the PGA Tour summer, as well as best ball summer. We're going to be talking best ball a lot for NFL and college football. So subscribe so you can be here with us for all of that. But that's going to do it here for this week, y'all. Like I said, it's been a good 2 weeks for us. The RBC Heritage was a profitable week. The Zurich Classic was a profitable week. So hopefully we can make it a three-peat here. And I'm really feeling like we got a good evaluation this course. And I'm really feeling like we got a pretty good group of guys from what we just talked about in order to build some DFS lineups and pick out some bets and some one and done picks. All right, but that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Best of luck to you guys this week at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Hopefully, I will be back next week to talk about the Wells Fargo Championship. But if not, best of luck to you guys this week. Thank you guys for watching the ones to this point, and I will see you guys next time.